Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vishnupadaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Kasa Swami Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vishnupadaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Varavani Prachari Vishesha Shunyamadi Pashtrami Vishitare Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Bhakti Vedanta Shimasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Dukha Hare Vachara Hare Vitte Hare Bhara Mate Shri Bhante Natane. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So welcome back to our discussion on Vedanta Syamantaka. So till now we have been discussing this the supremacy of Lord Vishnu with respect to the other controllers of this universe like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva and other demigods also. So we have been discussing that, and we will continue with that same discussion today, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward after completing this discussion. So last week, in the last class, I just gave, or rather no, this Srila Radha Damodar Goswami, he gives an hint like what all we have discussed till now. That's there, but still in the Puranas there are still contradictory statements to be found about supremacy of Brahma and Shiva, and they're very vocal about it. In the Puranas also, the supremacy of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva is it's described in such a way that there is no doubt as to who is supreme, like whether it's Brahma or Shiva, so like that. So there are contradictory statements in the Puranas. So how do we understand that? Although we have been speaking that all the names actually belong to Lord Vishnu, and even the names of Brahma and Shiva, it also belongs to Lord Vishnu only. But if we see the activities which are explained in the Puranas, it's very clear that it is actually the personality of Brahma or personality of Shiva who is performing that particular activity. And they are glorified. Their activities are glorified, and Lord Vishnu is also glorifying Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma in those pastimes. So how do we understand that? So that we will be seeing today. Srila Radha Damodar Goswami, he says, as per the narrations in the Mahabharata about Lord Krishna worshipping Rudra to obtain a son Samba and praising Rudra so that Arjuna would attain victory, they should be understood as mere pastimes, such as when Krishna worships Narada and others. So when in Mahabharata and other Puranas such kind of instances come, it is to be understood that these are merely for pastime sakes that Krishna is worshipping such personalities. Krishna also worshipped Sudama. That does not mean that we say Sudama is the supreme personality of Godhead. Normally it is said that because in Rameshwaram Lord Ramchandra worshipped Shiva, so therefore Shiva is supreme. But then he worshipped others also, and Krishna worshipped Sudama also, Krishna worshipped Narada also when they come. So that does not mean that because the Supreme Lord is worshipping somebody, therefore that person is supreme. Even in the Rajasuya sacrifice that Maharaj Yudhishthira conducted, Krishna actually washed the feet of all the guests who came there, especially the Brahmanas. So that does not mean that Brahmanas are the supreme personality of Godhead in this particular case. So that is how it is to be understood. So that's the point that Srila Radha Damodar Goswami is making. And this section of Lord Krishna worshipping Rudra to obtain a son, Samba, I don't think it is there in Bhagavatam, but in Mahabharata it is mentioned that Jambavati desired to have children like Rukmini had. Rukmini had Pradyumna, although it was found later, but then Rukmini had other children also, and Jambavati wanted to have children just like Rukmini. So she asks her husband, Krishna himself. So Krishna, what he does is he desires to satisfy Jambavati, and he goes to Himalayan mountains on the back of Garuda, and there he meets Upamanyu. So Upamanyu is Dhaumya's brother. So Dhaumya is the priest of the Pandavas. So his brother is Upamanyu. And Upamanyu was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. So Krishna gets initiation from him on Shiva mantras, and then he starts worshipping Lord Shiva. So what he does, he shaves his head. These instances are mentioned in Mahabharata. So he shaves his head. Then he smears all over his body, ghee all over his body. Then he wears very ragged and simple clothes. Then first month he performs tapasya by raising his hands, standing on only one leg, and he drinks only water during the first month. Then the second month he's taking only air. And then, first month it's only fruits, second month is water, third month is only breathing. And he did not sleep during that time. His arms are upraised, he's standing on only one leg. And in the fifth month, Lord Shiva becomes very pleased and he comes there along with Mother Parvati. And then Parvati and Shiva, they actually glorify Krishna there, and Krishna also glorifies them. And Parvati gives him benediction that through Jambavati you will have a son whose name is Samba, and your beauty will never diminish. That is the second boon that she gives. And she also says that you will also get married to 16,000 other wives. And after getting all these benedictions, then Krishna comes back to Dwaraka. So this story comes in Mahabharata. So it might seem that because Krishna got all these benedictions from Lord Shiva, therefore he manifested these qualities in his personality. He never became old. We also saw in the previous references that Krishna's form is always youthful. Although he had several great grandchildren, but still he was just like a 16-year-old boy. So, that may be because of the benediction of Parvati, one might think. And 16,000 wives he attained, that also is because of the benediction of Parvati. Like that, some understanding may be there. But Sri Radha Damodar Goswami here is clarifying that these are to be understood as mere pastimes. And he also says that as per the narration at the end of Drona Parva, that while explaining Rudra as a subject of the Shatarudriya hymn, Vyasa declared that Rudra is the supreme cause of everything. That should be definitely understood as referring to Parabrahma, Lord Vishnu as a super soul within Rudra, for there are no two Parabrahmas, and the concept of his being two is also not desirable. So there is another instance that happens in Mahabharata. The Shatarudriya hymn is actually a very favorite of those who are Shaivas, those who worship Lord Shiva. For them it's very close to them. So they always claim that because Shatarudriya, Lord Shiva is glorified so nicely by Vasudev, therefore Shiva is the Supreme Lord, like that. So how it comes is, after Dronacharya, this comes in Drona Parva. So after Dronacharya has been killed, then Ashwathama becomes rageful, he becomes mad with anger. So he shoots his Narayana Astra, but then Krishna asks all the soldiers on the Pandava side to bow down to Narayana Astra. So when Narayana Astra is shot, there is no other counter weapon for Narayana Astra. The only way one can survive that Astra is by bowing down, by surrendering onto the Astra itself, Narayana Astra. So Krishna asks everybody to bow down. Bhima did create some trouble, but then ultimately he also bows down. And Narayana Astra is not able to do anything. So then Ashwathama becomes very bewildered, and then he goes to the forest, meets Vyasadeva, and the story goes on like that. After that, Vyasadeva actually comes to Arjuna, and Arjuna asks a question to Vyasa, and he says that when my chariot is moving forward and I am shooting arrows, actually I could see another personality who is in front of me. Although I think that I am the one who's killing all my enemies, the other side soldiers, but actually this personality who's coming in front of me, he's accomplishing all that. He comes in front of my chariot, and then he is already removed. He's already removed the Shakti of all the opposing soldiers. He has decreased their morale. He's like almost killed them. And I feel as if I'm just merely doing the act of shooting that arrow and then falling down of that person, of killing that person, the soldier. Because I don't think I'm accomplishing anything. Everything is accomplished by the person in front of me itself. So how to understand that? Who is that person who's actually helping me like this? So at that time, Vyasadeva tells that it is Lord Shankara, it's Shiva himself who's actually coming in front of your chariot. He's walking in front of your chariot, and wherever the chariot goes, it's Lord Shiva who's accomplishing your tasks beforehand itself. You just have to act as an instrument. So when Krishna says Nimitta Matra Bhava Save Sachin in Bhagavad Gita, actually no, it's accomplished through the agency of Lord Shiva. All those soldiers are actually destroyed through the agency of Lord Shiva, and it's accomplished by Krishna himself. So then at that point, Vyasadeva actually glorifies Lord Shiva, and that is called the Shatarudriya hymn. This prayer Shatarudriya comes at that time. So now, when someone is directly reading Mahabharat, then it would seem that Lord Shiva is helping Arjuna, and Krishna also asked Arjuna to get the Pashupata Astra and other weapons from Lord Shiva. So when the Pandavas were in the forest for 12 years, I think, 12 years, then Arjuna was not there with the Pandavas for almost 6 years. And during those 6 years of time, he went to the heavenly planets, got different astras, and also he worshipped Lord Shiva, and he got Lord Shiva's weapons also. This was also recommended by Krishna only to get those weapons. So considering all this, it might seem that what Krishna could not do, actually Lord Shiva is accomplishing, or Arjuna could accomplish that by worshipping Lord Shiva. But that is not so. So those who have proper understanding in the Parampara system, we understand that actually it is Krishna's desire to vanquish all the inimical soldiers, to vanquish those elements of the society who are adharmic, and then establish the rule of dharma. So, yada yada hi dharmasya glanit bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. He says, to establish dharma, Krishna appears. So how is he establishing dharma? Through this fight, he is basically removing the burden of the earth, and he is establishing the rule of Maharaj Yudhishthir, who are the devotees of the Lord, devotees of Krishna. He is establishing their rule throughout the world, throughout the Jambudvip itself. So Lord Shiva is actually helping Krishna to accomplish that task. So although apparently, it seems that it's this entire task of establishing dharma, of establishing proper rule and removing all these antisocial elements was accomplished by Krishna through the Pandavas, but actually Shiva, who is coming in front of the chariot of Arjuna, he is also serving Krishna by removing all this, by basically demoralizing and literally taking all the energy or sucking all the energy of all the enemies and giving Arjuna the help, desired help required to vanquish all his enemies. So it's Shiva's service to Krishna in fulfilling his purpose. So that is how it is to be understood. So, so when this Shatarudriya hymn is being recited by Vyasa, Sri Radha Damodara Goswami says that should be definitely understood as referring to Parabrahma, Lord Vishnu, as the supreme soul within Rudra. So again, so you see, Shiva is the one who destroys, correct? He is the one who destroys. So Krishna actually inspired Lord Shiva from within the heart to go in front of Arjuna's chariot to destroy the enemies so that it will help Arjuna. So that is how it is to be understood. And there are references for that. So we will see that down the line. So it is Lord Vishnu, the super soul within Rudra, for there are no two Parabrahmas, and the concept of his being two is also not desirable. So we have been discussing this from last week, that among all the Ishvaras there is one supreme Ishvara, among all the controllers there is one supreme controller. So there are no two Brahmas, there is no Lord Vishnu and Rudra on the same level. So Rudra, Vishnu, Brahma, they are not on the same level. There is one supreme Lord, and he acts through different personalities and fulfills all his or whatever he desires to accomplish. So in Siddhanta Ratnam, Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, he gives references. He says Lord Krishna is actually offering respects to himself as Paramatma within Rudra's heart while promulgating his devotees' worship. His intention is to support Rudra's worship among all those who have material desires, apart from his own devotees, as it is said in the Narayaniya section of the Mahabharata by Lord Krishna himself. Aham atma hi lokanam vishesham pandu nandana tasmad atmanam evagre rudram sampujayamyaham. I am the soul of all living entities, O son of Pandu. Therefore, I actually worship myself within Rudra. So when Lord Krishna is actually worshipping Shiva, Ramchandra is worshipping Shiva, they are actually worshipping the super soul within the heart of the Lord. And there are supporting statements also. When in Dwaraka, when Krishna was there with his 16,108 wives, every morning he used to get up in Brahma Muhurta time and then he used to meditate upon himself. Right? So Krishna is worshipping himself. He is worshipping himself and all the living entities like this. And I think in the Narsimha Tapani Upanishad, it is mentioned that actually in that particular Upanishad, Lord Narsimhadev is glorified with lots of names which are attributed to Lord Shiva. So there also such statements come that Narsimhadev, so when someone worships Lord Shiva, his understanding should be that he's actually worshipping Lord Narsimhadev within the heart of Lord Shiva. That is how the understanding should be. And we also discussed last week that when the Brahmanas chant Brahma Gayatri, it is not actually Surya to whom they are worshipping, it's actually the super soul within Surya who is being worshipped. Right? And even when devotees pay obeisances to each other, the understanding is that they are paying obeisance to the devotees, but then they are actually paying obeisances to the super soul. Because wherever the Lord lives is the Dham, and when the Lord is living within the heart of the devotee, the devotee himself becomes the Dham. So we have to pay obeisances to him. So the devotee is not independent of the Lord. He is paid obeisances. The Vanchakalpatrubhi says is done because the Lord is situated within the heart of the devotee. So that is the proper understanding. So we are actually paying obeisances to the glory of the devotee which arises from his devotion to the Lord. So the Lord is in the center, not the individual person. His glory is there because of his connection to the Lord. Not that he is independent on his own and has independent glory. And the devotee also does not think like that. So because I have got all this qualification, I am such a great devotee, I am doing this much book distribution, this, that and all. So therefore I should be paid obeisances on to. No, that is not the point. The point is that the other person should recognize that devotee for his services and because of his dedication and connection to the Lord, his relationship to the Lord. So when paying obeisances also, we are actually paying obeisances to the Lord himself. And when we are paying obeisances to the spiritual master also, he thinks that all these obeisances and all the respects which I am getting, it's actually meant for my guru. And through the parampara system, it goes ultimately back to Krishna only. So this is very harmonizing factor. Whenever one pays obeisances or worships somebody, it is to be understood that it actually goes through the parampara system, through the Paramatma, through the spiritual master, through the parampara system, back to Krishna only. Right? So, in Mahabharata itself, then he continues, Krishna says, Maya kritam paramanam hi loka samanuvartate pramanani hi pujyani tatastam pujayamyaham. People follow the standards I set because these standards are honored by them, therefore I worship Shiva. Nahi Vishnu paranamati kasmaichit vibudhayacha Ata Atmanam Eveti Tato Rudram Bhajamyaham. Vishnu certainly does not bow down to any demigod. Therefore, I worship myself as Rudra. So, these are certain shlokas which Krishna says. Yeah, so last week we also discussed in the last class that in different Puranas, different deities have been glorified. I spoke about how in Linga Purana there is this pillar of fire, which there was Lord Vishnu, there was Lord Brahma, but they were not able to understand what is the source of their birth. So when they were fighting means there was a disagreement amongst themselves as to who is supreme. At that time, a pillar of fire, a linga, was manifested, and they were not able to distinguish as to what this fire is all about. So Lord Brahma, he took a form of swan, and then he said that I'll enter this linga and I'll go to the top and find out what is the source of this linga, because they could see that there is no start, there is no end of this pillar of fire, of this linga. So then Lord Vishnu, he assumed the form of a boar and he went down. So then so many years passed, celestial years passed, but still they were not able to find out the end of this. So they again came back and meet at the same place from where they started. And then at that time Lord Shiva actually manifested some words, just like in Srimad Bhagavatam it's mentioned, when Brahma was not able to recognize who is his source, then these two syllables ta and pa were told to him, that tapa, and Brahma understood he has to perform austerity. Then he performed austerity and he could understand what his source was. So similarly in this case, in Linga Purana, it is mentioned that these syllables were being heard by Lord Vishnu, and then they performed tapasya. Lord Vishnu performed tapasya for these many years, and after that it was revealed that it is Lord Shiva only who is actually the source of everybody. How to understand this? So this is how we have to understand. There are different days of Brahma influenced by the modes. So Thus, Lord Hari's supremacy being proved, one should not be confused after hearing about the supremacy of Brahma, Rudra, and others as mentioned in some Puranas, for these are to be rejected as they pertain to the modes of passion and ignorance. In the Matsya Purana, it is declared, Sankirnas tamasas chaiva rajasa satvikas tatha kalpas chaturvidha prokta brahmano divasahite yasmin kalpe tu yat proktam puranam brahmana pura tasya tu mahatmyam tat kalpe vidhiyate agne shivasya mahatmyam tamaseshu prakirtyate rajaseshu cha mahatmyam adhikam brahmano viduhu Sankirneshu saraswatyaha pitrinam cha nigadyate satvikeshu cha kalpeshu mahatmyam adhikam harehe teshveva yoga samsiddha gamishyanti param gatim. Okay, so the translation goes, there are 4 kinds of days of Brahma which are called kalpas. So we know one kalpa is 1 day of Brahma, which is 1000 chaturyugas. That's 1 day, and then similarly there's 1000 chaturyugas for that same amount of time. The chaturyugas will not get manifest, but the same amount of time is there as is night also. So like it's the time, total time is around 2000 chaturyugas. That is called one kalpa. And these kalpas can be classified into 4 kinds of days. There's a classification, 4 ways it can be classified. Those belonging to the mode of goodness. So one type of kalpa is that which belongs to mode of goodness. To the mode of passion, one kalpa or another category is mode of passion. To the mode of ignorance, another kalpa, another day is mode of ignorance. And there is another type of day where the modes, there is a mixture of modes. A Purana formerly spoken by Brahma in a certain kalpa is glorified in that particular kalpa. During kalpas which are in the mode of ignorance, the glories of Agni and Shiva are praised. The wise know the glories of Brahma as prominent in kalpas in the mode of passion. The glories of Saraswati and other divine beings and the forefathers, Pitris, are narrated in kalpas under a mixture of modes, and the glories of Lord Hari are prominent in kalpas in the mode of goodness. Those who have attained perfection in yoga attain the supreme destination only in kalpas in the mode of goodness. We'll read further. In the Kurma Purana, it is described, Asankhyatas tatha kalpa brahma vishnu shivatmakaha kathitahi puraneshu munibhi kalachintakaihi satvikeshu tu kalpeshu mahatmyam adhikam harehe tamaseshu shivasyoktam rajaseshu prajapatehe. There are innumerable kalpas pertaining to Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva which have been described in the Puranas by sages who reflect upon time. In kalpas in the mode of goodness, Lord Hari's glories are prominent. In kalpas in the mode of passion, the glories of Prajapati Brahma are prominent. And in kalpas in the mode of ignorance, the glories of Shiva are prominent. So, see, the Puranas are not sequential history. Okay, the way history is being understood in the modern time, it's a sequence of events that happened in the past. That is what is called as history. But when we speak about Puranas and Itihasas with respect to the Vedic culture, the chronological history is actually not the focus of the story. The focus of the historical narration is meant to fulfill a purpose. So in one Purana itself, we will find several narrations or several historical narrations will be taken from different kalpas of Lord Brahma. So even so that's why we'll find some differences in the same historical narration between 2 different scriptures also. For instance, a very famous one is Maharaj Parikshit's response to the curse of Shringi. In Bhagavatam, we know how it comes. It's mentioned that as soon as Parikshit Maharaj heard that Shringi has cursed him, he renounces everything, goes to the bank of Ganga, all the sages assemble there also. Then finally Shukdev Goswami comes and Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken. But the narration as it comes in Mahabharata is, Shringi indeed curses Maharaj Parikshit, but Maharaj Parikshit becomes very scared. So what he does, he constructs a huge tower. And in that huge tower, then he makes sure that no insect or nobody can enter inside that particular tower. And he has completely secluded himself inside the tower. to ensure that the 7 days pass without any untoward incident. And then story goes as Takshaka enters into the fruits which was being offered to Maharaj Parikshit. So he entered the fruit as an insect, and then as soon as the 7th day was about to end, then Maharaj Parikshit takes that fruit and he sees that insect also. And then he says, okay, this like a stinging insect. So let the curse of that Brahmana Shringi not go in vain. Let this insect only sting me, and then that way the curse is kind of mitigated also. I have been bitten also, at the same time I will not die also. But then that insect itself is Takshaka. So as soon as Maharaj Parikshit allows that insect to, he puts him on his neck, I think, I don't remember. But as soon as he puts him on his body, then that insect takes the form of Takshaka, he bites him and Maharaj Parikshit dies. These are two stories, right? It's the same, like in Mahabharata this is what is mentioned, but in Srimad Bhagavatam it's completely different. So how to understand that? So Acharyas explain that this actually there are two different instances that happened in 2 different days of Brahma. Okay, so the Parikshit Maharaj who is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, he is the pure devotee of the Lord, completely renounced, completely detached, and it is to that Parikshit Maharaj whom Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken. So this happened in this day of Brahma. But the story that comes in Mahabharata about the Parikshit Maharaj who actually becomes afraid, creates a tower, hides himself. So that instance actually happened in another day of Brahma. Okay, and in that particular day of Brahma, this is what happened. So that is what is mentioned. So I think, I don't exactly remember, but I think it's mentioned by someone in Madhva's line, or Madhvacharya himself mentions this in Mahabharata Tatparyanirnaya. I'm not clear. But then Kalpa Bheda is understood very clearly. So all the Acharyas are clear on that this happened on a separate day of Brahma, and this happened, the speaking of Srimad Bhagavatam happened on this day of Brahma. So now we can reconcile that using the statements that we have read now, that there are some days of Brahma which are actually influenced by the mode of goodness. So in those days of Brahma, the Puranas, which are actually, or the instances or the narrations or the activities that happen in that day of Brahma, they actually are for glorifying Lord Vishnu. But then there are other days of Brahma also where the mode of passion or mode of ignorance actually becomes prominent, and during those days Lord Vishnu actually allows these personalities like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma and Saraswati and the Pitris also to be glorified, so that people in that day of Brahma who are influenced primarily by mode of passion or primarily by mode of ignorance can also purify themselves and elevate themselves from the lower gunas to higher guna, say from mode of ignorance to mode of passion, and mode of passion to mode of goodness. So we were basically discussing that there are different days of Brahma which are influenced by the different modes. So there are 4 types. There is days in Sattva-guna, there are some kalpas in Rajoguna, some kalpas in Tamoguna, and some kalpa in mixed modes. So during each of these days, or whenever a particular day, a particular kalpa of Brahma is influenced by mode of passion, then Lord Vishnu actually allows some specific deities, some demigods to take prominence, so that the people who are influenced by, who are prominently, because when we speak about a kalpa of Brahma being in mode of passion or mode of ignorance, the understanding is that the collective consciousness of all the living entities is primarily in mode of passion. It's not exclusively in mode of passion or mode of ignorance, it's primarily in passion or primarily in ignorance. That is how we have to understand. Of course, the modes are never, like they are not independent or they are not unmixed. It's always a mixture of the modes. So sometimes mode of passion becomes prominent and goodness and ignorance take a back step. Sometimes the mode of goodness is prominent, passion and ignorance take a back step. Sometimes mode of ignorance, tamoguna, is prominent, and the mode of goodness and mode of passion, they are actually behind. So similarly, the days of Brahma are also influenced by that, and that is dependent upon the collective consciousness of the living entities. So when the living entities, or when the days of Brahma are influenced primarily by tamoguna or by rajoguna, then to elevate people from that consciousness to a higher level, then these specific demigods are being glorified as supreme, so that people can take up to their worship, and by performing the rules and regulations for their worship, they will be able to gradually elevate themselves from tamoguna to rajoguna and rajoguna to sattoguna. And we discussed that also. That's the goal of providing all this different types of rituals in the Vedic literatures. Traikunya Vishaya Veda, we also saw that. So this is how it is to be understood. So this is the commentary on Tattva Sandarbha. Gopi Parana Prabhu writes that in text 17 of Tattva Sandarbha. He says, the universe passes through varying cycles, days of Brahma, during which the lower material modes, the modes of passion, rajas, and ignorance, tamas, are at times prominent. During those periods, the Supreme Lord gracefully allows such servants of His as Lord Shiva to defeat him in competition and otherwise seem superior. Puranas that describe the events of these Rajasic and Tamasic Kalpas thus superficially seem to elevate demigods to the position of God. It is no wonder that imperfectly informed students of the Puranas cannot discern the unity of the underlying Puranic message, that the powerful controllers and wonderful opulences of this universe are all energies of the Supreme Energetic, the personality of Godhead. Such readers are unable to grasp this statement from the Harivamsha Purana. Vede Ramayane Chaiva Purane Bharate Tatha Adavante Cha Madhye Cha Hari Sarvatra Giyate. Throughout the Vedas and everywhere in the Ramayana, Puranas and Mahabharat, from the beginning to the middle to the end, the praises of Lord Hari are sung. And Manu also declares that smritis which contradict the Vedas should be rejected. Ya Veda Bahyas Smritayo Yascha Kascha Kutrishtayah Sarvasta Nishphala Pretyo Tamo Nishtahita Smritaha. Any heterodox doctrine as well as smritis which contradict the Vedas yield no fruit after death, for they are said to be situated in darkness. This is an indication that to achieve to achieve the highest destination, actually Lord Vishnu is to be worshipped. So we'll see some statements, some references for that also. So here it's very clear that different Puranas, they describe some different demigods as supreme, because those Puranas are basically compiled, or those Puranas are prominent during those days of Lord Brahma. So when we see the example of this from this Linga Purana, we have to understand that this actually happened in that Kalpa of Brahma, where the collective consciousness was in Tamoguna. Okay, so Lord Vishnu, he allows Lord Shiva to basically demonstrate such capabilities. So there are those, that's why the Puranas we see also saw, they are classified into 3 different modes. There are Puranas, 6 Puranas in Sattva-guna, 6 Puranas in Rajoguna, 6 Puranas in Tamoguna. And it is so because these Puranas were actually compiled for that during that particular days of Brahma, or these narrations actually happened during that particular day of Brahma, which are then being compiled, and it is still given to us by Srila Vyasadeva, so that those in Tamoguna can then follow the rules and regulations of that particular type of worship, and over a period of time gradually elevate themselves. So that is the understanding. Now in Tattva Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami, he continues with this understanding. He also continues that okay, there are Puranas in 3 different gunas, but which one is best? So then he gives several references, and he goes to Bhagavad Gita also. Urdham Gachanti Sattvastaha Madhye Tishyanti Rajasaha Jaganna Guna Vrittistho Adho Gachanti Tamasaha. Those who follow, those who are in the nature of Tamoguna, they go down. Urdhvam Gachanti Sattvastaha. So one who is situated in Sattva-guna, one who performs Sattva-guna worship, worshipping Lord Hari, he goes up. Urdhvam Gachanti, he goes up. Madhye Tishyanti Rajasaha. And one who engages himself in Rajoguna, and Rajoguna type of worship, he remains in that same position where he is. And one who is in Tamoguna, he Adho Gachanti. Adho Gachanti means down, he goes down. So like that. So that is there. So different types of Puranas, they have different type of guna. Normally it is said that those who are in Tamoguna, then by following sincerely the Vedic literatures, they will elevate themselves from Tamoguna to Rajoguna and go up. But then it's a risk also that is involved, because Tamoguna means following the rules and regulations very diligently and strictly is also not very possible, because there is laziness, there is those many modes also act on you. So that way one can go down also, one who is in Tamoguna. So it's kind of a tricky situation. But overall the general view is this, that one who resorts to the Vedic scriptures and does worship corresponding to their modes, then they will be able to elevate themselves. But with respect to Vedantic study or with respect to Krishna consciousness movement, we do not resort to all this because it's directly rejected by Krishna himself. Traividya Vishya Veda, Nistari Gunya Bhavarjuna. So this is our philosophy. Our philosophy is don't worry about these modes and all. Take up to Krishna consciousness, then over a period of time, all the purification will happen and gradually one will become elevated to Shuddha Sattva. So it doesn't matter if he's in Tamoguna, Rajoguna, Sattva-guna, doesn't matter. One who takes up devotion service, he actually does not have to undergo all these different types of worship of different deities in that particular mode and then elevate himself, because Krishna himself is purifying. That also, we are coming to that section also. So actually Sri Radha Damodar Goswami, after giving all these details, he also says that the Supreme Lord is completely purifying. So one actually does not have to resort to different scriptures to say, oh, I think I'm primarily Rajoguna because I have lots of material desires. So therefore, I will not worship Krishna, I will worship other deities who will fulfill my desires. That is not the point. The point is that these Shastras are harmonizing all these statements, but we are talking about the supreme destination. When we are discussing Vedanta, when we are discussing about the goal of life, when Vedanta Sutra speaks about Athata Brahma Jigyasa, our whole study is primarily to understand that this remaining in this material world within the three modes of material nature is actually not the proper destination. Going to the heavenly planets is not what we are aspiring for. So those who are in Tamoguna, going to the lower planetary system and enjoying sense gratification, that is not to be aspired for. So this is not what we are discussing. We are discussing about the highest destination. That's why when we are discussing about pramanas also, our pramanas are meant to take us to that highest destination, which is beyond the modes of material nature. So this is the classification of the Puranas, the worship of different deities, how one in Tamoguna, Rajoguna, Sattva-guna aligns himself to that particular type of worship is just to clarify the understanding of why there are apparent contradictions in the Puranas. That's about it. So that our mind becomes free from doubt as to the supremacy of Lord Vishnu. So once that is clear, then one should engage himself in the devotion service to the Lord. So that is what's to be understood. So Srila Jiva Goswami, he writes in Paramatma Sandarbha, his Anuched 17, a further doubt is raised. This is basically like a corollary to what we have discussed till now. In some other scriptures, Shiva is described as a supreme deity. In reply, we say, true, but that can be overridden if one considers the essential and non-essential elements of the scripture. In the Padma and Shiva Puranas, Shiva repeats the following words of Bhagavan Vishnu to Uma Devi. Tvam aradhya tatha shambho grahishyami varam sada dvaparado yuge bhutva kalaya manushadishu swagamay kalpitaistvam tu janan mad vimukhan kuru mamcha gopaya yena syat srishtir eshottarottara. Shri Vishnu said, O Shambhu, although I am the Supreme Lord, I have worshipped the different devas and devis simply to mislead the asuras. In the same manner, I shall worship you to obtain boons from you. You should descend to earth in your partial expansion and take birth as a human being in Kali Yuga. Concoct a school of thought by misconstruing the Vedas and divert the mind of the people away from me. Make sure that these fictitious literatures veil my true spiritual and supreme identity, and enticing the atheistic gross materialist rapidly spread atheism amongst them. So this is from Padma Purana. In Varaha Purana also it's mentioned, Esha moham srijamyashu yojanan moha yishyati tvam cha rudra mahabhaho moha shastrani karya atathyani vithathyani darshayasva mahabhuja prakasham kuru chatmanam aprakasham chamam kuru. O Shiva, I am about to create such an illusion that the entire humanity will become confounded. Prepare the fabrication of fictitious literature that will present the truth as unreal and the unreal as truth. Manifest your terrible image of the destroyer and conceal my eternal transcendental form from the vision of the people. So this is in relation to the Mayavad philosophy, which is propagated by Shankaracharya. So Lord Shiva came as an Amsha, as Shankaracharya, to mislead people so that the Lord's true spiritual and supreme identity can be hidden through these literatures. Why is he doing so? Because the people who have demoniac mentality, they would be attracted to such literatures and they are not ready to take up the concept of Krishna consciousness. Uh, One thing that we can understand is that, see, when Krishna comes, so he has two purposes to fulfill. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya ja dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He comes to fulfill these two purposes. So, by bewilderment of these asuras, one might think, oh, why is he not concerned about the elevation of these living entities also to the level of pure devotee? The point is, one answer to that is that the Lord never interferes with the independence of the living entities. So, if someone wants to be in that demoniac propensity, then the Lord allows him to do that. And another is to protect the pure devotional principles. The Lord has to differentiate between those who are devotees and non-devotees. So that these non-devotees or these atheists or those who are followers of Advaitavad, Mayavad, do not get into these principles of pure devotional service and corrupt it with their corrupted philosophical understanding and not disturb the devotees and their philosophical understanding and basically shut down their devotional service. So therefore, Lord actually asks Lord Shiva to come and divert them so that their attention always remains on all this philosophical, speculative Vedanta studies, this, that and all, and they do not disturb the devotees. So that is why these things are there in place. So when Lord Vishnu performs all these activities, it is for the well-being for his devotees. So other than destroying the demons, Krishna is actually more concerned about protecting his devotees and protecting the principles of pure devotional service. So these things are therefore brought into picture, all these different Shastra. And when he is speaking about fictitious literatures, so these are all these Vedanta Prakaranas that the Mayavadis write. We have discussed that also, this Vivek Chudamani, Atmabodh, Tattvabodh, this, that and all. These are all fictitious literatures which actually are covering the true concepts, the true explanations of Vedanta Sutra, the true explanations of the Upanishads, and they will never be able to understand if they go through that particular process. So only those who are inimical to devotion to Lord Vishnu, they get attracted to that particular line. But those who are not completely inimical to the worship of Lord Vishnu, they can come to the aspect of pure devotional service. So this is the reason why the Lord is, he's basically saying to Lord Shiva, do this fictitious literature. And Lord Shiva, being the personality who actually destroys the universe, so when he creates or when he does such kind of activities, it's actually for the destruction of the spiritual consciousness of these demoniac people. And there are several stories in the Upanishads also where the demons will go. I think the story comes in one of the Upanishads where who is that? Prahlad Maharaj's son, Virochan. I think Virochan and Indra, they go to Lord Brahma to understand what the absolute knowledge is. So then Lord Brahma says that you are this body, that is absolute knowledge, and Virochan is satisfied with that, but Indra is not satisfied. So the story goes on like that. So there are instances also like this. So the demons, they are happy. If nobody tells them about devotion to Lord Vishnu, they are happy. And if somebody tells them about supremacy of Lord Vishnu, devotion to Lord Vishnu, they get agitated. They get angry. Then their logic, all their logic falls into abyss. But those who are favorable or those who actually are not inclined to impersonalism, they will take up devotional service. So that is why impersonalism, Mayavad, Nirvishesha, Shunyavadi, Paschatya Desha Tarane, this is required for Gauravani Pracharine. To actually spread the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this Nirvishesha and Shunyavad has to be destroyed or has to be given up, has to be sidelined. Otherwise, preaching of Krishna consciousness is not possible. The more people are influenced by Mayavad, they will not be able to take up Krishna consciousness. They will not be able to attain the supreme destination. So that is why we are doing this study basically to understand all these different thoughts and also the explanations of the acharyas, which will make us study and which will also provide us with the necessary tools to respond to those people who have these kind of questions. Right? So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 7, text 110, purport. Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse from Padma Puran. Mayavadam asachatram prachannam baudyam uchyate maiva kalpitam devi kalo brahmana rupina brahmanaschaparam rupam nirgunam vakshate maya sarvaswam jagatopyasya mohanartham kalo yuge vedante tu mahashastre mayavadam avaidikam mayaiva vakshate devi jagatam nashakaranat. The Mayavad philosophy, Lord Shiva informed his wife Parvati, is impious as a Shastra. It is covered Buddhism. My dear Parvati, in Kali Yuga, I assume the form of a Brahmana and teach this imagined Mayavad philosophy. In order to cheat the atheists, I describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be without form and without qualities. Similarly, in explaining Vedanta, I describe the same Mayavad philosophy in order to mislead the entire population toward atheism by denying the personal form of the Lord. Right? Yeah, so I think this is clear. In this way, this is Radha Damodar Goswami writing. In this way, only those Puranas and other scriptures which are situated in mode of goodness are to be accepted, since they produce valid knowledge, while it is clear that other scriptures should be rejected, since they produce mistaken knowledge. Therefore, the wise should not be confused by scriptures in the mode of passion and ignorance. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sattva sanjayate jnanam, rajaso lobha evacha, pramada moho tamaso, bhavato jnanam evacha. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, grief develops. And from the mode of ignorance, foolishness, madness and illusion develop. So one who wants to gain real knowledge, he should situate himself in mode of goodness. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 24, it is said, Parthiva dharano dhumas tasmad agnistrayi mayaha tamasastu rajas tasmad sattvam yad brahma darshanam. Firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than the raw wood. And fire is still better, for by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas. But goodness is best because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. Okay, so this is clear. So we will stop here because this discussion is a long discussion. So we will need some time to discuss this, Lord Vishnu's potency and his qualities. So we'll do that tomorrow. So if you have any questions, then you can take. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, I can actually give those questions to me. Okay, so there are a couple of questions. So, how to understand Shiva? Lord Shiva is saving one devotee from death. Not sure if it is Markandeya when Yamaraj was about to take the boy. Yeah, so that is there. This is there actually in Linga Purana only. In Linga Purana it's mentioned that Markandeya was actually saved from death by Lord Shiva. So how is it that Lord Shiva is able to save a person from death if he is not the Supreme Lord? And he also gave him the benediction of a very long life. And it is also mentioned that Lord Shiva also can liberate his devotees. So how is that to be understood? So there is a reference for that actually in one of the Puranas or in Mahabharata. It is mentioned that Lord Shiva got the potency to liberate living entities by the mercy of Lord Vishnu. So I'll try to find that reference. Maybe we can discuss that at the start of the class tomorrow. So he got that potency. Actually it's mentioned that Lord Shiva and Parvati also. So both can actually give liberation to a person. How is that? That's because Lord Vishnu actually bestowed that particular Shakti onto Lord Shiva and Parvati. So this is mentioned, the reference is there. I don't have it now, but then I'll find it out. We can discuss that tomorrow. So that's one thing. And in Kashi, Lord Shiva delivers everyone from birth and death. So how is that possible? So yeah, I think that's understood that Lord Shiva, when a person is about to die, leave his body in Varanasi, in Kashi, then Lord Shiva comes and in his ears he chants the name of Lord Ramchandra. So Ram, Ram, Ram. So that's how he liberates that person. Yeah. And yeah, so there is one more question. So there is a verse, Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya, Shiva Rupaya Vishnave, Shivasya Hridayam Vishnu, Vishnoscha Hridayam Shivaha. यथा शिवमयो विष्णुर एवं विष्णुमय शिवः यथांतरम न पश्यामि तथा मे स्वस्तिरायुषी यथांतरम न भेदा स्यु शिवा शिवराधवयोस्तथा. This is found in Yajurveda, right? So that is also there. So the translation is that Vishnu's Rupa, beauty, and his avatar is none other than Shiva. In other words, Shiva is Vishnu. The one is Shiva, Rupa is none other than Vishnu. In other words, Vishnu is Shiva. And Vishnu resides in Shiva's heart and Shiva resides in Vishnu's heart. Vishnu will be found in the same place you find Shiva, and Shiva can be found in the same place Vishnu is. As if you find one, you have found the other. We are, and then Yathantaranna Pashyami Tathatmahe Swasti Ayushi. We are one and the same. Until a person don't find any difference between those two, he will be safe and long living. Okay, so how to understand this? I think we have discussed this in the previous classes also, that when it is mentioned like that, then these are actually qualities of Vishnu himself. So Shiva we can consider here, because all the names come from Lord Vishnu. So Shiva and Vishnu, there is no difference between these two names, that's one understanding. And Shiva also means auspiciousness. So wherever there is Vishnu, there is auspiciousness. And wherever there is auspiciousness, pure auspiciousness, there is Vishnu is there. So that's how you can understand. And respect to the last line, we are one and the same, which means Vishnu and Shiva are one and the same. That also we have seen that actually in Bhagavatam itself, Krishna himself says, Vishnu himself says that there's one who finds difference between three of us actually goes to Naraka. And we also saw that how it is to be understood. So as Gunavataras, as having the potency of Lord Vishnu invested in Lord Shiva, they are same. And we also saw that even the living entities are in one sense similar to Lord Vishnu, because they also have the qualities of Lord Vishnu. But when it comes to the supremacy, or one who actually is bestowing that Shakti to others, then it's Lord Vishnu. It's Vishnu Deva who is giving all the auspiciousness to Lord Shiva. So these verses are, the Mayavadis, the Smartas, they think these verses are like Brahmastra, but the proper conclusion has been done, Samanvaya has been done. So that is how we have to understand it. Okay, so we'll stop. Thank you so much. Shri Radha Damodar Goswami ki, Shri Prabhupada ki.